Hey there, CIM students. It's time to start thinking about your summer assignment. If you haven't started already, this is a good place to start. This video will be a tutorial of what to do for each of the two parts of your summer assignment. First part's on design flaws. Second part will be all about VEXcode and writing it as part of the VEXcode VR activities. Let's dive into it. For both assignments, you'll find that there's collapsible text, some for your resources, like these, and then also for your procedures, like these. Both assignments have collapsible text, so if you can't find something, be sure you expand those areas. Assignment 1 is all about design flaws. I've provided for you some resources here. Let's take a look at them together. There's a walkthrough video, which provides a PowerPoint presentation that I've recorded myself going through. If you open it up in YouTube, like you see here, there's chapters that you can select if you need to skip through different parts or come back and refresh yourself to some of it. You can find those chapters by clicking on this little arrow here at the bottom and then finding the different chapters off to the right. It's not very long, about 6.5 minutes. It's highly recommended that you do go through it, as it will help you get a good understanding of what bad designs are, what we consider to be bad designs, and from a perspective that is more in line with manufacturing. There's also a video on failure mode effects analysis. This is referred to as FMEA. This video is provided by SME, which is the Society for Mechanical Engineers, and you'll find that it's a little old, but it's worth it. I highly recommend that you walk through it, get a good understanding of what that failure mode is really all about. I'm also providing for you the new engineering design process you're familiar with, and we'll see it in the presentation video that I have. This new one is a little different. It's not a flowchart. It's more of just a six-sided hexagon shape with, it's basically the same thing. You'll get a sense of what it is. It breaks it down a little easier for people to see, though in the presentation, the walkthrough video, you still see the old school flowchart version of it, which is pretty useful as well, in my opinion. There's also another great resource here. This will help you as you go through the procedure. This is the Bad Human Factors Designs. It's kind of an archaic looking website. It can be a little cumbersome to work through, but it does have a lot of neat different bad designs. A lot of times students will research bad designs and they'll find purposely badly designed objects, and that's not what we're looking for here. So you want to dig a little deeper into this, but just as an example here, they have a bike light as one of their new bad designs. And this gives you a sense of kind of what this page will look like as you click on the different versions of it. There's, of course, access back to table of contents or a home page here, and you can click on the More Bad Designs button here and find just a whole bunch of different bad designs. This is a good place to get started when you're doing your research on what bad designs are, and maybe you can pick one of these as your bad design. And the final resource for this assignment is the Bad Door Designs video. This is a video that is all about why certain doors are considered bad doors. You'll find in the video that they're also referred to as Norman doors. Good video to watch. I highly recommend it. It's a very entertaining video as well as very interesting. You're probably going to find that as soon as you watch this, you realize there are a lot of Norman doors that you interact with. So that's it for the resources. I've collapsed that text. Let's take a look at the procedures. Number 1, choose an example of a product that was poorly designed. This product cannot be something that we discussed in that walkthrough video in the resources. Cannot be something that's part of that bad designs presentation that I go through with you. It can, however, be something that's out of the Bad Human Factor Designs website. Or it could be something that you have a personal experience with. It can even be a Norman door, but it has to be your own Norman door. It can't be one that you find on that Vox video. Number 2, and this one's kind of long, Create a Google slide that highlights and discusses your work and processes. Now the first part here is all about including a title slide with this information. You need to have an appropriate name for your presentation. You need to include your first and last names, and you need to have an overall image of whatever the bad product is that you chose. The next 2 slides of your presentation should include the following information at minimum. An annotated image of your poorly designed product that you selected. This is a slightly different image than what you provided on the title slide. A full description of the chosen product and the intended use of the product. It's also important that you provide any design flaws that you think the product has, and with those flaws, be sure that you relate them to economy, safety, functionality, and ethics, just like you saw in the bad designs presentation. And then to finish off these 2 slides, make sure that you provide a recommendation or recommendations for the product to be redesigned to correct any of these design flaws. Your reference slide is your final slide. Be sure that you provide your sources as APA citations. I'd recommend using some sort of citation generator if you have a hard time with APA. Make sure that you do provide proper sources. Don't provide something like Google for your image citations. Make sure that those images are free for you to use, and then also make sure that you provide at least 3 different sources. These can all be websites if you'd like. Just make sure that they're credible websites, and make sure that you provide them in the proper way. And the final part for number 2 is that you need to include some type of multimedia to your presentation. Examples of this might be audio clips or a voiceover, a video, maybe music that you provide to go along with it. I would encourage you to consider multiple different types of multimedia, not just one. Make sure that it's something that does, in fact, enhance the presentation and not detract from it. Remember, you want to make us feel engaged in the presentation, not just be some rote thing that you're doing. CIM _ assignment 1 followed by another underscore, and then your first and last name just slammed together. Capitalize each name if you will. And then another underscore followed by what the chosen product name is. So for example, CIM Assignment 1, Adam Davidson, Bad Doors. Underscores in between those things should be good to go. Try to match that as best you can. Then make sure that you share your Google Slides file with me by doing the following things. Click on that share button and then make sure that you use Adam_Davidson at dpsnc.net as a shared editing rights level person. If I don't have the ability to access this, I can't give you credit for it. To be safe, I would also make sure that you copy that link and share it with me via email as well. That way, if I go to click on it and I see that I can't access it, I can immediately say, hey, I need to have rights for this, and I can request those. So you need to keep an eye on that email as well that you're using for this. I would also recommend that you log in through your DPS Google account and try to build it in this Google as opposed to in your normal Google or Gmail account that you may have. Double check that you've shared everything with me and that I have those editing rights before you do send it all off. Sending me that email is just a really good way of actually making sure that you have shared it with me. I'll probably get a couple of emails from you about it, and that's totally okay with me. So this brings us to grading. Now this assignment is easy. This is not a difficult one. This is the easier of the two. It's just a very quick, basic, easy research project. You build a small little multimedia presentation. It's only worth 50 points. Points will be awarded for how well you follow these directions, the level of engagement and quality of your presentation, how well did you document your references using APA citation methods, and then did you submit it with no errors, or did I have to write you back and say, hey, I need access to these things, or you provided this hyperlink within your presentation, or there's something that I can't access or that you didn't do right. Okay, so real simple, real easy. Make sure that you follow all the directions. Make sure you make it as engaging and unique as possible. Make sure that you do your APA citations well, and you share it with me the proper and appropriate ways. Okay, this brings us to assignment 2. This is the second part. This is the VEXcode VR activities. Let's take a look at these resources. So I've expanded the resources section. It is collapsible text as well. The VEXcode VR website, VEXcode VR activities, the VEXcode VR knowledge base, and a set or a playlist of Mark Johnston videos. This YouTuber is really good at providing you with high quality, really good explanations of how to code using VEXVR. We'll take a look at his playlist that is set up for pretty much anything you're going to need to know about the 3 different activities that you have to complete as part of the assignment number 2. If you click on the VEXcode VR website, it'll take you to this. This is the vr.vex.com website. It's big, empty, blank. You may have seen this before. There's everything from drivetrain to magnets, looks, controls, sensing, operators, variables, my blocks, and even comments. You probably won't use all of these, but there is quite a bit that you could use. And there's a lot that Mark Johnston in his videos will show you, and that the VEXVR code or VEXcode VR activities will suggest to you to use. For this portion of the video, I just want to walk you through some basic things. Not only do you have the easeability of just dragging and dropping in the blocks and snapping them together and using the drop down to make changes to each of the blocks, which is very easy. It's very simple, especially compared to what we've had to do in the past with writing. You can also drop them over in the left hand side again from the code area, and they'll disappear. If you do want to see what the code looks like as Python, you can pull it up over here with the code viewer, and you can even convert all of your code to a text project. Once you do this though, you can't switch back to the block. So I would recommend coming in here and taking a look at these as needed. It's pretty much a Python skin over the top of all of this. So just keep that in mind if you do have some Python programming experience. There's also a monitor button if you're going to be setting up sensors and variables and so forth. Again, take a look at some of these videos that we'll give you access to help you understand how to use this more to your benefit. And then there's a help function as well. You click on this and then you come over here and click on any of these blocks and it'll tell you all about them. Very, very good use here. You're going to have to do a lot of investigation on your own, especially if you have no background in any of the VEX coding or VEXVR coding, which is probably pretty likely. Then you have the file and all the stuff here at the top. There's obviously a change in language if you want to change it over for something, if you don't speak English and need something that's more in line with your language that you speak at home. There's also the file button here. This is where you can have a new blocks project that looks just like what you see on my screen right now, or a new text project. You can also load from your device, which I'll show you in a minute. You can open up examples of what VEX has provided for you for various different things. This is also a pretty good resource, especially if you're brand new and you need a kind of a jumping off point. You can save to your device. You're definitely going to be doing this, and we'll talk a little more about that later on. And then there's a what's new and an about section as well. There's even tutorials that you can access for all the different parts. There's a getting started all the way down to higher level type stuff that you could work on that goes far beyond the activities that we'll be working with. Probably some of the more useful things that you'll work with is you'll figure out how to move and remove blocks pretty easily. Driving forward and backward, turning, using loops is pretty useful in storing data. My blocks is pretty useful as well. You may need some help with using the playground window. You'll see some of this as you go through the videos and as you look at what I'm getting ready to show you. You can go back and take a look at what the activities are themselves. If you do click on this, you'll find that it opens up a new window. It's just like the one that I have opened up here. That is the VEX education site, and this is where you can find, as you scroll down, all of the different VR activities. There are 3 that I'm going to want you to do, and I have already provided you direct links to them. They are Storm the Castle, Crash the Castle. You can see Crash the Castle here. And then there's also, along with Storm the Castle, Sweep the Castle. So here's Storm the Castle and Sweep the Castle as well. And if you click on these things, it will bring up some Google Doc files for you. You can't really get editing access to them, but you can save them as needed or make copies of them if you'd like to. And of course, these are all embedded within the assignment as well. So again, that's Storm the Castle, Crash the Castle, and Sweep the Castle. All of these are very similar to each other, and they move up in progression of difficulty as you work on them. So these are the activities if you need to get to them, or if when you're done with those 3, you want to go beyond this because this is your jam and you want to work on this a little more, you're more than welcome to, and this is where you can access a lot of those different activities to help you out with learning VEXcode a little bit better. We will be using a lot of VEXcode for some of the assignments that we have to do in CIM throughout the semester. And then, of course, there's the VEXcode VR knowledge base. This is, again, something that you can find on VEX's website. I do provide you a direct link to this. It looks just like this site here. And it looks pretty minimal, but as you start clicking into these hyperlinks, it gets more and more involved. There's a bunch of things that you can get into with this. So take your time. You have all summer. Go through it if you need to. It's just a good resource for you for some background or some help if you get stuck with something or you need some advice on what to do next. And then, of course, Mark Johnston's videos. This link should open up directly to his All VEX VR. Remember, VR is virtual robot, not virtual reality. And if you scroll down, you'll find some like, let's see here. VEX VR Dynamic Castle. This is a great one for you to look at. I would highly encourage that you use this one whenever you're working with Storm the Castle, Crash the Castle, and especially Sweep the Castle, as those deal with the Castle Crasher or Dynamic Castle Crasher playgrounds. Okay, so those are our resources. We'll collapse that and we'll talk about the procedures. All right, so assignment 1 was super easy, just a bit of research, get you thinking about some bad designs. This one's a little more in depth. This one has you completing multiple different parts and then being able to create some sort of report or presentation and provide that as your submitted assignment. Let's walk through the procedures. The first procedure is basically go through those resources, investigate the VEXcode VR website. If necessary, create an account using your DPS school email, and then the embedded tutorials on the vr.vex.com website can be really useful. I highly recommend you take a look at those if you have no background at all with VEX coding, or if you just need that kind of refresher and you want to spend that amount of time on this assignment. Totally worth your time. Take these things into account. You need to note the VEXcode VR activities, especially the 3, Storm the Castle, Crash the Castle, and Sweep the Castle that you're required to do. And you need to note this other hyperlink for the VEXcode VR knowledge base, as it can be very useful as well. Read over and familiarize yourself with those 3 different activities. With Storm the Castle, you're going to find that when you do click on that hyperlink and it brings up this Google Doc, down here at the bottom, there's the competition challenges. My only note about that is they're fun to attempt, but they are not required. You are required to do the regular level challenges, level 1, 2, and 3 challenges for each of these activities. Familiarize yourself with Mark Johnston's VEXcode VR videos. Take a look at them. There's a lot to look through. Not just the one that's his part 10 down here on the VEX VR Dynamic Castle Crasher, but there's a lot of things that you could use in here that might be useful for you, especially if you're one of these kids that likes to dive deep into these summer assignments and get that really good solid background. Okay, so in his Dynamic Castle Crashers video, he'll tell you that you can go in and download his document that is, or his file that is his code for Castle Crashers. And great, you cannot submit that file as yours. It's a good starting point, and that's awesome. Use it as a starting point. He even encourages you to do that, and I am right there with him. Somebody has just walked you through how to do it. If you're going to take his file and then modify it and go forward with that, awesome. But it needs to be significantly different. With that said, I'd like to show you as I go through this how I came up with the best way to, in this case, probably sweep the castle. So I'm going to open up, I'm going to load from my device one of the files that I created that I called CIM_assignment 2_Adam Davidson _Castle Crasher in this case. And this is what we came up with for Castle Crasher. So this works really well. I do use a lot of operators and variables and so forth. I also use a lot of my blocks. You can see here how I've defined them. So each of these my blocks that you see are then used over here in my main code. So my main code is very slim, very narrow, but it has a lot of jumping around to these my code or my block parts of this code. I'm going to load up the playground for Dynamic Castle Crashers, and I like to make sure that I've expanded it so it's as big as possible. You'll see right here it says shrink. I've already expanded this as big as I can get it. I also make sure that I have my pen turned on so that it draws wherever it is that I'm going to move my AGV or my VEX robot around. Okay, so here we've loaded in the Dynamic Castle Crashers playground. There's a lot of playgrounds to choose from. This one has a different setup of castle parts. If you hit the reset button, it'll reset them to a different one. You'll see this as you play around with it. Right now I'm looking straight down over the top of it. You can also look at more of an isometric view, or you can use this camera setup to be looking from the front of your robot as you would be on the playground. I also like to turn off all of these statistics up here at the top, all of this table basically up here that gives me this data. It just makes the screen a little bit bigger. If I run my code like you see here, which basically is just running this with all of the my blocks, it works like this. Oh no! And there goes my robot. So even with this fairly well vetted piece of code, my robot still does make mistakes. He has fallen off the side of this playground. So unfortunately, I would have to reset and start again. And in this case, it would change the playground slightly. Each time I hit reset, it does change it. Now, even this code, which I have run probably 50 different times, it does fall off the side occasionally. It also makes some decisions that you may not make as a normal person. You may think, oh, well, just to my right is another block, but it doesn't necessarily see that other block. So some efficiency could be worked into this, but this is after hours and hours and hours of trying to make this as efficient as possible. Now, with that said, there are a bunch of other things that you can work with here, like let's say, for example, I want to provide a PDF copy of what my code looks like, and this might be useful if you're trying to provide this in a presentation format. You can click on Share, and it'll allow you to create a PDF document of it. You can use the undo or the redo buttons. You can even go in here to the Learn option, and try to find some more information if you're finding that code that you're creating PDFs of are not as efficient as could be or look like a big mess. There's a lot of options in this website for you. Okay, with that said, let's go back to the activity now. With your activities, you have to complete 3 of them: storm the castle, crash the castle, and sweep the castle. Each one of those activities has a level 1, 2, and 3 challenge to them. You have to open up the correct playground. It's either going to be Castle Crasher or Dynamic Castle Crasher. If you look at the activities, it tells you what playground to use. Storm the Castle uses Castle Crasher, whereas Crash the Castle uses Dynamic, and so does Sweep the Castle. They are all slightly different from each other, but do make sure that you open up the correct playground whenever you're moving through the different levels. Create a new file for each of the challenges. So you have challenge level 1, 2, and 3. I would recommend creating a new file for level 1, another one for level 2, another one for level 3. Use something along the line of this naming scheme where you have the activity name, and I would include maybe the level number there. So activity name _ challenge number _ first name, last name. Something to that effect so that we know what activity you're on, what challenge level number you're on, and what your name is. That's the file that you'll save. So in your VEXcode VR, when you go to finish up whatever file it is that you're working on, or at any time when you're trying to save it, you want to come in here and save to your device. If you do use this naming scheme and you use that save to your device, just make sure that each time you're saving for the new level, you don't save over the top of one that you've just done. So if I were to say come in here and make modifications to this, then I would come into save to your device and then change the name of this. Notice that it puts this parenthesis 1 right here. You may want to have some slight modification to your naming scheme that doesn't just use 1, 2, 3. Make sure that it makes sense, and that's why I recommend using activity name _ challenge number _ first name, last name. You could just start a new blocks project each time as well, but that's probably going to become pretty tiresome for you. You may find that as you move from storm the castle to crash the castle, or from crash the castle to sweep the castle, that does make sense to change your code. It's not going to be the same code that you write for crash the castle as storm the castle, or even probably sweep the castle as it is for crashing the castle. Attempt the challenges numerous times. And make sure that as you do them each time, you are running that pen tool with it, because you want to mark your path to help you with being able to improve your efficiency. You saw how my marks changed colors. When I run this, I'm telling it to move my robot pen down, and each time that I tell it to do a different task, it's using a different color. So you can see here how I set the robot pen to black, but up here I had it set to green, and up here I had it set to red. So this is all about defining where pushing off the edge is. And so as I approach that edge, different things happen. I go over the edge, I come back over the edge, back into the playground area. So be wary of that. If you're using something like this, it's just for me to be able to help myself when I'm trying to figure out what is effective and what is not. That's a little bit advanced. If you're at that level, great. If doing this numerous times, you get to that level, even better. That is the intent. Make sure, though, that at minimum you clean up your blocks and you make them very easy for us to follow. That's where coming in and using things like my blocks and setting variables and using loops becomes really, really, really useful. It keeps your code from being extraordinarily long. And if you watch some of Mark Johnston's videos, you'll see that there are times where he's like, I don't care about how long it is. I'm going to make it work, and then I'm going to come back in and clean them up. Use those variables when possible, and make use of the my blocks if you can. It will definitely help your code stay clean. Be sure that you document your process by doing the following things. take screen captures of your playgrounds at different stages in your process. Record your screen using some type of screen capturing software like what I'm using to make this video, if you have that possibility. Use the share feature to create PDF copies of your code at different stages in your process as well. Don't just plow through it and then say, oh crap, I forgot to take a screen capture of this or record that, or do it piece at a time. This should take you a little bit of time to get through, probably a couple of weeks. Document the process by also making sure that you take notes on what is and is not working. I don't care where you take those notes. You want to do them in a Google Doc, you want to write them in a notebook, that's fine. But take some notes on what is and is not working. Do some sort of daily entry or daily recording. Whenever you do work on it and you're done for the day or you're taking a break, just jot down real quick what did and didn't work. Not anything that you have to provide to me, but just for your own knowledge so that you can write about it and talk about it in the end. Anytime you make major changes, document what those are and why you made them. This is where the comments come in really useful as well. And then document what you did to solve problems as you encountered them. This kind of goes along with what is and is not working and the major changes that you made, but I just really want to reinforce that as you make those changes, as you run into problems, document what they are, think about it, pull a parent, pull a sibling to the side, show them what you're doing, walk through the process with somebody so that you do have a way of documenting it. Even if it's that you have a webcam and you're recording changes that you made, like a video log, that's also totally acceptable and could be something that you wind up using as part of the report or presentation that you create. Speaking of that report, let's talk about number 4. You need to create a report or a presentation of your work. You need to do this using either, not both, but either a Google Doc or Google Slides. Remember, your choice here. Utilize hyperlinks, screen captures, screen recordings like what I'm using here if you can, but at minimum some screen captures and some hyperlinks, things of that nature. Provide a full description of the process for each activity. Now, if you're going to use a Google Doc to do this, you should have, at minimum, embedded images like those screen captures of your playground, of your code, etc. You need to have hyperlinks to the .vr blocks files for each challenge. You need to make sure that they're organized in a Google Drive folder through your DPS Google account. You need to have well-written paragraphs that detail your process as you went through it and identify and discuss your successes and failures, and those paragraphs need to reference those embedded images and the hyperlinks that you're providing. So these all go hand in hand with each other. As you're detailing that process, you're identifying what those successes and failures are, and you're using the images, screen recordings, hyperlinks, and so forth to show me what it is. If you're going to talk about a file, hyperlink that file. If you're going to talk about a particular success or failure, have an image of that. If you're going to do this through a Google slide, make sure that you have audio clips or voiceovers that explain the information on each slide. Embed some videos and screen captures. Again, if you can, embed some videos, but at minimum screen captures, and make sure that those are referenced in the audio clips and voiceovers. So those audio clips and voiceovers take place of the typed up paragraphs that would typically be in some type of report. Make sure that those images that you're providing or videos that you're providing are clearly labeled and have a way for us to identify what it is we're looking at. So although there should not be a lot of text on the slide, I don't want to be reading the slide. I want you to be telling me about what I'm looking at. You should have enough information on that slide to go along with the image or along with the video that I know which one you're talking about whenever you're going through the voiceover. And then you could, of course, if you're really into the writing side of this, but you want to stretch yourself a little bit and make a multimedia presentation again, then you are encouraged to test those writing skills by writing some sort of script or narrative in the notes section of your Google slide that you'll be turning in. It's part of what I like to do whenever I present to you guys through these videos. Make sure that you have a title and reference page. Whether you're using a Google Doc or a Google slide, doesn't matter, either one. You're going to include a title page that has the following or a title slide that has the following. Appropriate name for the presentation, your first and last names, an image that represents the work that you accomplished. And then you need to include a reference page or slide that uses APA citations. Don't cite Google images just like before, and include at least 3 different references that helped you during your research or helped you during the process that you went through. Some of that will be research that you do in how do you apply a particular part of a code, where did you have to go for a particular article to help you with this. You can even reference some of those Mark Johnston videos. It's going to be a little trickier this time around, but you should be able to do it. Make sure that any and all files that are associated with your completed work have been shared with me. Okay? Make sure that especially that Google Doc or slide, again, you choose which one you're going to be turning in. Make sure that when you submit it, it has been shared with editing rights so that I can do whatever I need to that file. All Google items that you share with me, whether it's assignment 1 or 2, really, should be shared to adam_davidson@dpsnc.net. Then, when you go to submit your assignment, make sure that whatever that file is, whether it's the Google Doc or the Google slide, again, your choice, name that using a very similar naming scheme as before. CIM_Summer Assignment 2 or Assignment 2 _ first name _ last name, or something to that effect, so that it's very clear this is for CIM, this is the second assignment, and this is who you are. Okay, so some type of naming scheme that's similar to that. Share your file with me. Yes, you have clicked on the share button and you've added in my name or my email address, whichever one is easiest for you to do. But just to be safe, make sure that you've sent me an email of this file. So you've shared it and then you've shared that link. I'll get a couple emails from you about it, and that's totally okay. It just backs it up for you that you for sure got it to me. And then double check that I have that editing level rights. Assignment 2 is worth a whole lot more points, 3 times as many points, because you're doing 3 times the amount of work. It's worth 150 points. They will be awarded for the following things: a well-written Google Doc report or a well-presented Google slide presentation. This includes a level of engagement and ability to document your process, whether that be that your Google Doc is kind of like a hyperdoc where you have a lot of hyperlinks and images and videos and so forth in it that really walk me through the process as I'm reading through it, or it's some type of really involved multimedia presentation that has videos, that maybe has some good images, that has a good voiceover or some music involved with it. You're also going to be assessed on whether or not this enhances or detracts from the quality of your report or presentation, and then of course the quality of your documented references in APA citations. This will account for 60 of the 150 points. The other 90 points come from the bulk of this assignment, which is you creating all of the code. So the completion of each activity is the other part of this. It will be determined by whether or not you effectively mastered each challenge for each of the activities. Activities are worth up to 30 points, and each challenge within them are worth 10 points each. That's a total of 90 points for all the coding that you have to do. And then the other part of it, the 60 points, is from how you present it to me. And that's it. That is your summer assignment. 2 massive assignments, all found right here on this website. I say massive. 1 smaller assignment, 1 larger assignment. It'll take you quite a bit of time to get through, so don't hesitate. Don't wait. Get on top of doing this as soon as you can. Let me know if you have any questions. I will do my best to at least guide you in the right direction, but I will not give you the answers. I want to see how well you can get through two fairly important topics for the class, but not something that you shouldn't be able to get through at this point. So whether or not you have experience with design flaws or whether or not you have experience with VEXcode, we're expecting that you get through this during the summer and are ready to come in swinging as far as you can with this curriculum in CIM. Hope you have a great summer. Hope to hear from you soon. Have a great night.